It's time to Decimal Duel.
All right, so we're going to learn how to Decimal Duel. Now, this, of course, is a Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Disk, and if you have one of these, then yes, Decimal Duel can be used with one of these toys, like such. However, I'm going to assume that most of you guys do not have one unless you made one. I would suggest Googling how to make one out of cardboard. There's some printable, traceable PDFs that you can find out there. But I'm going to assume you don't have one because I sold an extra one of these I had for like 60 bucks. And then I later found out that he sold it on eBay for a little over $200. So, but the cool thing with the Decimal Duel game is you can play it just on a table on the floor. Just knowing that you have 5 spots to work with a little decimal dot after the first 2 numbers. So it actually would look this way. All right, you'd have the tens, the ones, the tenths, the hundredths, and the thousandths place. So I'm gonna use that for our video illustrations. Okay, so the first way to play is the easiest. You can play with yourself, quizzing yourself, or you can play with an opponent. So let's say I just do a random draw. I don't strategically put out my cards. So here's my tens place, my ones place, tenths, hundredths, and thousandths. And let's see, I need something to represent a decimal point. My wife has a hair clip here. That's going to be our decimal point. Let me move them all up a little bit. All right, and so the first way you play is just quizzing to see if you or your opponent can remember the correct place. So if you'd just say 9, and then they would have to say the tenths place. Okay, if you said 5, they'd have to say the thousandths place. If you said 2, they'd have to say the tens place, and so on. You could also do the harder version of this, where you'd say you would just point, and they would have to say what the number would be if that was the only number. So 5 in this case in the tens place would be, that's 50, right? This would be 9 tenths. This would be 3 hundredths. This would be 5 thousandths. This would just be 2, right? Because it's in the ones place. So that's the first way to play this game, decimal dueling. All right, the next place, all right, is probably going to be the most popular one in terms of making sure that you really got the value of places. Okay, so let's say I'm going to do another 5. Okay, just going to do them at random. There's my little decimal point. I made all of my aces ones, by the way, if you're converting a deck of playing cards. If you're converting a deck of playing cards, you got to remove all the royal cards and then the tens and convert the aces into ones. All right, so my number here is 57 and 169 thousandths. All right, so one way that you can play this is if you're playing against someone else. All right, let's say they draw their random 5 cards. And before you put out the cards, you'd say, all right, we're going to see who has the bigger number or who has the smaller number. All right, and in this version, your opponent drew 67 and 653 thousandths. So we can even just look at the normal. Obviously 67 is bigger than 57. We don't even need to look at the decimal points. But if you want to play the other version, you're only going to look at the decimal places. So we're going to just assume there's 0 over here. So 0.364 and 0.488. So in this case, all these numbers are also bigger than down here, but we know that the 4 tenths is bigger than 3 tenths. Again, if I'm going to push these aside, let's say at the beginning of the game you say, all right, we're going to see who has the smallest number. Okay, again, I'm just random drawing at this point. All right, this is your opponent up here. Your opponent got 0.723 or 723 thousandths, and you got 841 thousandths. Oh man, if you're playing for a lower hand, then your opponent won, because obviously 723 thousandths is smaller than 841 thousandths. All right, so there's a similar game that you can play. Now this one, it's more fun if you can play it with an opponent. The next version of this you can actually play by yourself. It works just the same, and it's essentially rounding. All right, if you play with an opponent, they get to pick the place that you round it to. So drawing 5 random cards, 2, 3, so 23 and 595 thousandths. Okay, and let's say for this rounding, you're going to round the tens place. All right, so you're going to look over here at the hundreds place. All right, over here, if it's 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9 over here, then you're going to round this one up. If it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, it's going to stay the same. So here I got a 9, so I would have to find the 6 in my deck and replace it. So my new number would be 23 and 6 tenths. All right, but let's say instead of there is a 9 here, let's say it was a 4. All right, so if it's a 4, I don't even have to look for a card. I just remove it, and my new number is 23 and 5/10. All right, so let's say we were going to round the ones place. All right, that's over here, the 3. You look over here, it's a 5. Oh, I better find a 4 because I got to round it. Okay, the 5 means that the 3 gets an upgrade to 4, 24. So obviously, it makes pretty sense why you could play this game by yourself, but you could also play with an opponent where you guys have the same number to start with. All right, so let's say you guys both start with 21 and 491 thousandths out on the board. All right, but whoever can change it first wins. All right, so, and you both have the deck in front of you, so if your opponent sees that, oh, hey, I'm picking 9, we're picking the hundredths place and we got to look to the thousands. Oh, if it's a 1, we can just remove the 1. And if they would have removed the 1 before you did, they would have won. Or let's say you guys were doing the 10ths place again and you're looking over here. All right, let's say they're still trying to figure out, oh man, does the 4 stay the same or does it go up? And you realize, oh, I better find a 5 card so I can just move these out. And so you find the 5 card, you put it down before your opponent does. Boom, you just won 21 and 5/10. All right, now if you're my students, those games right there are all the things that we just learned last week. All right, we're moving on to adding and subtracting decimals, and then of course the following week we'll be multiplying and dividing. All right, here I'm about to shuffle the deck right now. If you're playing with an opponent, you probably should let them see you shuffle. All right, so adding and subtracting decimals. You can do it with, you can play solo or you can play with an opponent. All right, so let's just do simple adding. All right, and you'll need a scratch paper for this. So I'm still just doing random draws. All the games I'm showing, you can do it strategic. You can draw 5 cards, rearrange them in your hand how you like them, which is especially helpful when you're trying to see who has a bigger or a smaller number with your opponent. You're like, ooh, I'm going to try to arrange my numbers in the biggest or the smallest order possible. All right, so for adding and subtracting, you put these 5 cards down. Then your opponent, they're going to put their 5 cards down. Again, I'm just doing random. You can do it random, or you can pick depending on what you and your opponent agree to. So your opponent drew 67 and 589 thousandths. You put out 84 and 435 thousandths. The reason why this requires scratch paper is you guys have to both add it on your separate pieces of scratch paper or whiteboard even, and then whoever gets the right answer first, they win that round. So right now, I'm going to put it at the bottom of the screen or somewhere. I'm going to add it up, right? So I'm going to do 9 and 5, carry it up, carry it up, carry it up, and there's the answer. Obviously, it's going to take a little bit longer, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to explain it that way. And again, you can have it random, or you can choose which one's in advance. So that's how you do decimal dual adding addition. You can probably already guess where I'm going. The next addition is subtraction. All right. So just for time's sake, I'm doing random. So you put out 66 and 371 thousandths, and then your opponent puts out 27 and 381 thousandths. So it's the same thing. You guys got your scratch paper or your whiteboard handy, and you're going to try to figure out what you're going to be subtracting. Subtraction is different than addition because it doesn't matter which one's on top, which one's on the bottom when you're adding. When you're subtracting, it matters. So you have to decide at the beginning of the game what numbers are going to be on the top in the sense of what's going to be subtracted from. So you say, all right, my number is going to be on the bottom, opponent, yours is going to be on top. All right, so then they know that this is what the math equation is going to look like. It's going to be 27 and 381 thousandths minus sign right here, 66 and 371 thousandths. So the 1 and the 1 cancel each other out. All right, that's easy. 8 minus 7 is 1. 3 minus 3, 0, cancels it out. You can carry that down. 7 minus 6 is 1. And then 22 minus 6, oh, you're not going to be able to do it like that. You're going to have to actually borrow. So sometimes if every single number is bigger on top than on the bottom, you can try to do it like that. But most of the time you are going to need that scratch piece of paper to solve it. All right, so that's adding and subtracting, decimal dueling. I'm going to show in a different video how do you decimal duel with multiplying. And yeah, and we'll go from there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our channel and like this video and share with anyone else that would like to play this game and get better with their decimals and place values.
It's time to duel.